By the way, this big tremendous bulge over here is a very important part of the anatomy of the chicken. This bulge is called the defect. The defect is at the base of the neck of a bird. Some birds have a defect, some birds don't. And Chazal told us that there are 4 sibonim that show that the bird is kosher. If it has all 4, then it's truly kosher. But it could be kosher even if it only has 3. The duck has no defect. It's called in English the crap. Okay? And we never find this when we get a chicken at home, because they don't have our chickens feed till the last moment. This chicken was happily feeding in the barnyard, and it kept gorging itself. So all this food is just stuffed here. Why is it clogged up in the crap and the defect? For one reason, because its stomach system, which is the gizzard, which is the kurkuvon, the pipik, as we call it, is actively working hard to grind up all the food that's been passed down to it, and it has no room for all of this, and it'll just have to wait till the chicken gets tired of eating, can't fit anymore into the defect, obviously, and then the kurkuvon will grind up the food little by little and pass it into the intestines to the digestive system. Yeah, good.
People might like to know if they should eat that zefik on Pesach.
Yeah, well, nobody ever eats the zefik, because the zefik is just skin with no taste and no meat on it. And this zefik is filled with garbage. I'll show it to you right now. In fact, let's cut open the zefik and see what's doing inside.
You call the zefik in Yiddish?
The zefik.
The gizzard.
The crab.
The crab.
That's English, but here. This, by the way, is all kinds of seeds and corn, and there should be some pebbles over here. Take a look. But this is a male bird. Look at its great, tremendous crown. So it doesn't need that many pebbles. The female bird has to have pebbles which will go to the gizzard and be ground up into pebble powder, and ultimately becomes a shell on the egg. The 4 signs of a kosher bird. 3 of them are easy to demonstrate on the bird. 1 is the presence of a defect, which most kosher birds have, not all. The other is the fact that the skin, the sac of the kurkuvon, peels away easily from the kurkuvon itself. The third is there's an etzba yisera. What is an etzba yisera? An etzba yisera is an extra finger. Well, there's 2 opinions in Poskim. One that says that this is the etzba yisera. This is like an opposing thumb. This bird is a perching bird, right? It takes 3 fingers surrounding a twig or something. It could fly up and catch hold of a little branch. And these 3 surround it. And this one on the other side is like a thumb that opposes it. And between the 2, the bird can have a safe perch. Okay? Another opinion that says the etzba yisera is the middle toe is longer than the others. You can see the middle toe is very long, and the 2 on the side are short, and they both curl to perch on the branch or whatever it is that the bird likes to grab hold of. And the back one is holding it from the other side, so you have we have 4 that oppose 1, and the chicken has 3 that oppose 1. Okay?
Rabbi, why is, according to the second opinion, why is the middle one Yisera?
Because it's longer. It's just longer. Yisera means it's extra.
Rabbi, is there a view that this is the etzba yisera?
Right. And some say that this projection over here, this bony part, is the etzba yisera.
Rabbi, but pigeons and many birds that the
They don't have it.
And doesn't the Gemara say that pigeons have all the signs of kosher birds?
Well, we assume that the pigeon is the toyer, or the oina, right? So then we have a little problem, but there's no question at all. We have a Messiah, and we know that the pigeon is a kosher bird. This chicken, we'll open it up and see how it looks from the inside. The chicken does not have two chambers like a human being. In an animal, the bottom one below the diaphragm with all the digestive organs, and the upper one with the heart and the lungs. The lungs of a chicken are tucked inside the wing, at the base of the wing. We'll see it in a moment. But this is the liver of the chicken. This green little green sac over here is the gallbladder. Below the liver there's a gallbladder. The liver manufactures bile constantly and fills up the gallbladder with bile. And that bile is very, very, very important in the digestive process. This membrane over here is called the mesentery, just for those who are interested. It's called the mesentery because all the food that's digested and produced during the trip of the food through the intestine has to go now into the bloodstream and give it to the body for nourishment. So therefore it goes along these blood vessels till it comes to the liver, and through the liver it will be pumped to the heart, and so on and so forth. This over here is something that every single chicken is inspected for as it passes by the mashgichim in the slaughterhouse. Okay? This is the entire digestive tract, right? This lighter colored part is coming out of the kurkavon, the gizzard, and the darker colored part is going down here, down to the rectum, and it'll pass out the waist. In the middle, smack in the middle of it, there's a tiny little bulge. And that little bulge is what we call the yolk sac, and I'll explain to you what it is. The male chicken has one, and the female chicken has one. Could you see it? So you got the picture of that little bulge? Sometimes that little bulge is swollen to the point that it could have an enormous amount of material in it. Why? Because it's infected. Or for a different reason, and I'll explain. The chicken is hatched from an egg. The egg contains white and yellow, that's all. And the egg has, by the way, tiny, tiny, tiny pores in its shell, and it breathes. It takes in oxygen and breathes out carbon dioxide, just like a lung. All of that material becomes transformed into a little baby chick. Okay? What you have is bones, brain material, blood streams with the blood circulation. You name it. Every part of the chicken comes from the yolk and the white. The yolk and the white is the basic material of life. The white has all the proteins, the yolk has all the cholesterol and energy and everything. The yolk doesn't turn at once into a baby chick, but it starts with a teeny little baby chick that's microscopic, and it increases and increases and increases in size. And how does it increase in size? By absorbing all the food that's in the white and in the yolk, and the oxygen that seeps through the shell. All of that stuff takes 21 days from the time the mother hen sits down on the eggs and starts warming them till the time the egg hatches. By a duck it's 28 days, every bird has its own time. That spot that I showed you, that's where the yolk and the white of the egg was attached. And the chicken began to develop from that. It was passed through the elementary gut, which is the digestive tract, and it became bones, like I said, wings, feathers. It turned into everything that eventually became a chicken. And that spot over there is the yolk sac. The Rebbeinu Shalom put into the yolk and into the white enough for a complete chicken, plus more. There's always something left over. It's not just exactly enough, never. There's something left over. And if you open up a chicken after a week or so and it's large enough to make a little meal of, 2 weeks maybe, you see in the digestive tract a little yellow bulge. Why? That's the extra material of the remainder of the yolk. What we saw over here is a bulge that's almost nothing. It's so tiny that there's practically nothing left. Why? Because all of the material was absorbed into the live chicken. Sometimes a little bit is left and that's all. It can't absorb anymore. It gets cut off, and what you see is a little dry strand that attaches the bulge to the gut, to the intestine. That has to be examined by a mashgiach. If it's natural, normal, and part of the development, nothing wrong with it. If it's infected, it's black, and it's bloody, then you might have a problem on your hand. An experienced mashgiach is trained to look at that yolk sac and to see if there's a problem. It's only 1 out of 50, 60 chickens that have a real problem, but it's quite a few when you have thousands of chickens that pass through the slaughterhouse every day. So you always see the mashgichim grabbing hold of the gut, of the intestine, and holding it and checking it, and looking at the little bulge over here, which is the yolk sac. In this particular one, there's no problem at all. There's nothing remaining except that telltale little pupil-shaped bulge over there. But in some chickens, you may find a very serious problem there. As it is, our chickens are eviscerated, and we don't get them with all the stuff inside the chicken, so no one has the need to have experience in examining them. Showed something else that was the concern of every housekeeper years ago. That is the kurkuvon. This is the famous, well-known Heilige kurkuvon. Here. I'm going to just rip it off. And I'll cut a little above it to show you where the... this inside over here is the kurkuvon, the pupik. This kurkuvon is called the gizzard, and it has a very powerful muscle. All the food goes straight into it through the food tube. It's right above it, and then it goes out of it. What happens while the food is inside the gizzard? That food is ground, because there's the little pebbles that the chicken ingests act as millstones, and they grind the food and reduce its size to tiny, tiny particles, and then it goes into the digestive tract. Yeah. I cut the kurkuvon off from the esophagus, from the food tract that leads from the neck, past the defect, into the kurkuvon. Let me pull it out. I'll take out the first part of the digestive tract. Here is the kurkuvon. Here's the part that comes in from the mouth, right? That little chamber above the kurkuvon, and that does have digestive juices. It's very helpful in the digestion. Okay, the kurkuvon itself is a muscle that grinds the food inside. Here's the first part of the intestine, I showed you before, that contains the pancreas, which leaves the kurkuvon. This is the entrance. When you see, I'll get my fingers out of the way, hopefully. This is the entrance to the kurkuvon. This is one tube that's in the center, and this is off to the side. This is the exit from the kurkuvon. Let me open up the gut here. Well, it's too fresh and it just doesn't. Okay, here we are. There we have it. Okay. Here's the entrance to the kurkuvon. Here's the exit. The food goes in over here, and it gets ground up inside the kurkuvon, and it leaves, covers the pancreas, and I showed you a little bit about that before. Let me open the kurkuvon and show you what was the concern of the householders in the old
Show
days.
them how you're cutting the kurkuvan, so they can, because if you cut it wrong, it won't peel. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just open. The kurkuvan has a little sac inside. In fact, the entry tube runs into the sac, and the exit tube runs out of the sac. The muscle doesn't touch the food at all. The muscle just encloses the sac. Now, it's interesting, an interesting fact, that in a kosher bird, the sac peels away from the muscle. Take a look. The sac peels away. Here's the sac with the food, okay? And here is the muscle that grinds it all together. And here's the entrance which brings the food into the sac. You see the sac here. The sac peels easily away from the wall of the kurkuvan.
By hand.
By hand, yeah. Right, that's called kurkuvanoi niklaf. The kurkuvan is able to have its sac peeled away from it easily. Okay, this is the sac which held the food.
Rav Nosson, what traifos could people look for and find inside of the kurkuvan?
Well, actually,
The process bit.
and it's not found that much like in chickens, but in turkeys more so, and some mashgichim do feel the kurkuvan if in case there's a nail that was embedded in there and it pierced through, which would render it a
Pierced
traifa.
through what, Rabbi?
It pierced through the
In the kurkuvan, if this was a turkey kurkuvan, what would be the problem of a nail?
if the nail went through its skins, both through and through.
Could Rabbi show me which skin?
Yeah.
Directly from, it went through the whole,
Through the sac. Oh, this is the first skin.
that's right, and then it goes through the
Muscle.
the other part, the underneath part, which is the muscle, and it's perforated completely, so then it would be rendered traif.
So it would have to be sticking out of the outside of the kurkuvan?
Well, not necessarily, you'd have to check that to see.
Any time you see a needle that's stuck into the flesh of the kurkuvan, that's cause to go to the roof. But we don't see the kurkuvan today practically, and if we do, so it's salted and put away together with 1,000 other kurkuvan.
And how about in ducks where they swallow pennies, which get embedded into the kurkuvan? But they're obviously not sharp, they don't penetrate, but they're embedded in the kurkuvan. Would that be a problem, or it only has to be something sharp?
No, something sharp. That's a machat in the kurkuvan. A needle, a nail. And by the way...
It matters how it's lodged also, how you find it.
Mm-hmm.
If you find it in a position where there's a possibility that it did pierce, so then you have to check it out. But if it's just lying there in such a position where there's no indication whatsoever that it pierced through, then it wouldn't be a problem, even if it's there.
And by the way, this was one of the things that the women always checked for when they received the chicken. The chicken was gotten to them, not eviscerated. And some of them had to pluck the feathers, but those who got plucked chickens still opened them up and checked to see if the kurkuvan had a needle in it. It was very common in the old days because the birds, walked around the barnyard and picked up everything in sight and pecked away at it and swallowed it, so they would swallow little sharp objects as well. And we've always opened the kurkuvan, I remember as a child, and felt to see if there's anything lodged in the skin of the kurkuvan, the flesh of the kurkuvan. And the people who stood by the Rav, many kurkuvans were there. Right? They tell the famous story of someone who brought in a kurkuvan with a shaila to the Rav, and the Rav took a look at it, and with great delight he said, this is the holy kurkuvan. Which means to say that he learned so much Torah and so much halacha concerning the kurkuvan, and to see it, to see it there in front of him was a very exciting experience.